Someone tagged me in a video the other day asking what my opinion was, and I said that it could potentially cause my deplatforming. But I found this post today, and I wanted to read it to you because back in 2017, 18, 19, I saw 16 girls aged 13 to 20 that had ended up with severe injuries, some of them hospitalized in a coma for a long period of time, due to one particular thing to help prevent HPV. The next time that someone tells you vaccines are great because they eradicated polio, share this information and tell them to do more research. Without question, the go-to disease to defend vaccines is polio. Coincidentally, it is also the greatest lie and medical con job of all time. Toxins causing polio is well documented. Polio is the virus that never was. In 1824, metal workers had suffered for centuries from a paralysis similar to polio, caused by the lead and arsenic in the metals that they were working with. English scientist John Cook observed the fumes from these metals, or the acceptance of them in solution into the stomach, often causes paralysis. 1890, lead arsenate pesticides started to be sprayed in the U.S. up to 12 times every summer to kill codling moth on apple crops. 1892, 2 years later, polio outbreaks began to occur in Vermont, an apple-growing region. In his report, the governor, Inspector Dr. Charles Caverly, noted that parents reported that some children fell ill after eating fruit. He stated that infantile paralysis usually occurred in families with more than one child, and as no efforts were made at isolation, it was very certain it was non-contagious, with only one child in the family having been struck. 1907, calcium arsenate comes into use primarily on cotton crops. 1908, 1 year later, in Massachusetts, towns with 3 cotton mills and apple orchards, 69 children suddenly fell ill with infantile paralysis. 1909, the UK bans apple imports from the States because of the heavy lead arsenate residue. 1921, Franklin D. Roosevelt develops polio after swimming in Bay of Fundy, New Brunswick. Toxicity of the water may have been due to pollution runoff. 1943, DDT is introduced, a neurotoxic pesticide. Over the next several years, it comes into the widespread use in American households. For example, wallpaper impregnated with DDT was placed in children's bedrooms. In 1943, a polio epidemic in the UK town of Broadstairs, Kent, is linked to a local dairy where cows were washed down with DDT. In 1944, Albert Sabin reports that significant cause of sickness and death of American troops based in the Philippines was poliomyelitis. U.S. military camps there were sprayed daily with DDT to kill mosquitoes. Neighboring Philippine settlements were not affected. In 1944, the NIH reports that DDT damages the same anterior horn cells that are damaged in infantile paralysis. In 1946, Gebhardt shows polio seasonality correlates with fruit harvest. In 1949, endocrinologist Dr. Morton Biskind, a practitioner and medical researcher, found that DDT causes lesions in the spinal cord similar to human polio. 1950, U.S. Public Health Industrial Hygiene Medical Director J.G. Townsend notes the similarity between parathion poisoning and polio, and believes that some polio might be caused by eating fruits or vegetables with parathion residue. 1951, Dr. Biskind treats his polio patients as poisoning victims, removing toxins from food and environment, especially DDT-contaminated milk and butter. Dr. Biskind writes, although young animals are more susceptible to the effects of DDT than adults, so far the available literature is concerned. It does not appear that the effects of such concentrations of infants and children have been even considered. 1949 to 51, other doctors report they are having success treating polio with antitoxins used to treat poisoning. Dimercarpol and ascorbic acid. Example, Dr. F.R. Klenner stated, in the poliomyelitis epidemic in North Carolina in 48, 60 cases of the disease come under our care. The treatment was massive doses of vitamin C every 2 to 4 hours. Children up to 4 years old received vitamin C injection intramuscularly. All patients were clinically well after 72 hours. 1950, Dr. Biskind presents evidence to U.S. Congress that pesticides were the primary cause of polio epidemic, and he is joined by Dr. Ralph Scobie, who reported he found clear evidence of poisoning when analyzing chemical traces in the blood of polio victims. This was a no-no. The viral causation theory was not something to be questioned. The careers of prominent virologists and health authorities were threatened. Biskind and Scobie's ideas were subject to ridicule. 1953, clothes are moth-proof by washing them in EQ53, a formula containing DDT. 1953, Dr. Biskind writes, it was known by 1945 that DDT was stored in the body fat of mammals and appears in their milk. Yet, far from admitting a causal relationship between DDT and polio that is so obvious, which is another field of biology that would be instantly accepted. Virtually, and the entire apparatus of communication, lay and scientific alike, has been devoted to denying, concealing, suppressing, distorting, and its attempts to convert it into its opposite, the overwhelming evidence. Libel, slander, and economic boycott have not been overlooked in this campaign. 1954, legislation recognizing the dangers of persistent pesticides is enacted, and the phase-out of DDT begins. 1956, the American Medical Association mandated that all licensed medical providers could no longer classify polio as polio. It should be diagnosed as Guillain-Barré, acute flaccid paralysis, Bell's palsy, cerebral palsy, or Lou Gehrig's disease, MS, and muscular dystrophy. The sleight of hand was fabricated with the sole intent of giving the public the impression that the polio vaccine was successful at decreasing or eradicating polio. 1962, Rachel Carson's Silent Spring is published. 1968, DDT resignation canceled for the U.S. 2008, acute flaccid paralysis is still raging in many parts of the world where pesticide use is high and DDT is still used. 2008, the WHO states on its website, there is no cure for polio and its effects are irreversible. This is from Chris Kirchhoff, and it kind of illustrates a point, and you should do your own research. And the very first time I ever questioned anything in this realm was when I saw those 16 girls in that very short time period, all with this similar injury that resulted in POTS and severe autoimmune disorders from something that was supposed to prevent HPV.